Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canada's Real Deal. I'm your host, Anuj, and I'm a real estate broker in the Greater Toronto Area.
And my name is Anika Dogra, and I am a mortgage agent level 2 in Ontario. And today we're going to be talking about the different Canadian political parties and what their platforms are specifically in regards to housing.
Okay, so there's really only two contenders right now, the Liberals and the Conservative Party of Canada. So we're just going to focus on what they've done so far, the Liberals, and what the Conservatives are proposing if they were elected. Okay, so let's start with the Liberals, where some of their policies actually have already come into effect.
Okay, so what are some of their key policies that they've introduced?
So one, I think you probably experienced this more, the first home savings plan. They've already put that into effect where people can save up to $40,000 and pull that out to use towards their first home purchase.
Tax-free.
Tax-free. And this was only for first-time home buyers, though.
Yeah.
So they've already placed that. They increased the amortization period to 30 years for new builds, right? They increased the mortgage cap from 1 to 1.5 for insured mortgages, right?
Yeah. And by the way, when they increase that amortization to 30 years, what they mean is whether it's insured or uninsured, you have both options.
Okay, nice. Yeah. They introduced the Canadian Renters Bill of Rights, where they allowed renters to use their rent payments towards their credit history,
right?
Which I think was a great move.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
They had the Housing Accelerator Fund. So they're proposing $4 billion in funds to help municipalities push more development.
That's great.
That they also did.
And they had the foreign buyer ban.
Oh, yeah. Which they extended to 2025. So
Yeah.
It's still in place now, trying to promote people with less vacancies, and they want to stop foreign investment into Canada, which they think is a cause for the house prices skyrocketing in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So what kind of impact have these policies had on the housing market? Like in terms of supply or anything like that, have they actually been useful?
I think they've been useful to a degree, but paired with their immigration policy, it hasn't been that effective, right? Because if you're letting more people into the country faster than you're building homes for these people, even if you have a fund that can help produce and build all these houses, it's not enough, right? You're always going to be at a deficit, right?
Yeah.
So based on your experience in mortgages, what benefit have you seen from their policies that they've put in place already?
Well, to be honest, they introduced a lot of these policies more recently. And I guess they kind of introduced them at a point where it's a little bit later than they should have, right? And some of these are going to go into effect December 15th. So we'll see how useful it is to have a 30-year insured mortgage, because we'll see how useful it is to have insured mortgages capped at 1.5 million, because that's definitely needed, right? But the other part of the mortgage puzzle is whether people can actually qualify for the loan on that amount, right? So what an insured mortgage is, just a reminder to the audience, it means that you've put less than 20% down. So the bank is insuring that mortgage because you have less equity in that home, right? But you still have to qualify for it with these other guidelines that are still in place, including the stress test, right?
Yeah.
So if you couldn't qualify for a certain amount before, it's not like having that cap at 1.5 million is going to make a huge difference, right? You still have to have your income meet the requirements for that type of loan. So yeah, we've got to see if that really helps people, because what it's really going to help people do is not have to save up as much to get into a home, but they still need their income to go up along with it.
I think personally it will help, because I've had buyers who can qualify on their household income, but they just don't have anything saved, right? Because the cost of everything is so high. So who can actually even save in this market? But I think there'll be an increase in demand for homes priced under 1.5 million, right? And based on the last 2 years, anything over $1 million was pretty hard to qualify for because the rates were so high. So we should see an increase in demand for those homes, right? So, and then people who have larger families, they definitely want bigger houses. So I think that definitely will have a good impact on the housing market. but it kind of, like you said, might be too late to the game. Maybe they're just trying to get votes now.
Yeah.
It's too hard to tell because if it's only in effect for a couple months, I don't know what the conservatives are going to do, but it may be short-lived.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this stuff does seem, maybe I'm a little bit jaded, but I think some of this stuff it's a political game, and it looks better than it is. Actually, that's not true. I think some of the more recent things that they've introduced are really good things. Like I do think the 30-year amortization for insured mortgages, I'm excited about that. But I think things like saying we're going to extend that foreign buyers ban, that might not be as a big of a deal because it was not really foreign buyers that were really causing a lot of these housing issues, right? It really is that we're not producing enough houses at the rate that our population's growing or to meet that population's demand.
Exactly. I mean, they put a lot of things in place since he got elected. So in 2015, when he was first elected, the average home price in Canada was $453,000 then. So in June 2024, it's $697, right? So he had the first time home buyer incentive in place, but the problem with that was the criteria. Nobody qualified for it. You had to make less than $120K annually as a household. The purchase price had to be under $500K. Yeah. And where are you going to find a house in Canada that's like that?
Yeah, Canada is way too large. We have diverse markets across the country. So it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, so here's a stat. Well, I want you to guess. So let's just pick Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria, right? Very dense markets, right? And a lot of demand there. Guess how many people actually use the first time home buyers incentive that they had?
So in like these bigger cities across Canada.
Yeah. The entire time that it was put in place.
Well, I don't think many people would have found it useful. So I'm going to guess not a lot, right? But maybe like, I don't know, like 5% or something. I don't know.
The exact number is 385. That's it. Just Toronto, Victoria, and Vancouver.
So, combined?
Yeah, combined. So clearly it was not effective. Across Canada, it was 17,500 nationwide. Yeah. Nationwide, and their goal was 100,000. So very, very short. So even if people who are arguing that you just have to go out of these large cities and you can find something, it's not applicable.
Yeah, it's just
in such a changing market, it just doesn't work.
I'm actually shocked by those numbers, especially that fact that it's combined. That's like so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why they got rid of it.
Okay. Yeah, it's no longer a thing. So I guess that makes sense.
So big critics of that was the Conservatives. So let's talk about the Conservative platform now.
Okay.
So the Conservative Party has outlined its housing platform in a document called Canada's Recovery Plan. So some things that they put in place is incentives for builders. They want the builders to have an easier time building. So they want to penalize municipalities who don't hit their targets and incentivize builders to hit their targets, right? So they're kind of attacking both sides.
Okay, and when they say punishing municipalities, they're expecting municipalities to become more lenient with their policies or their regulations or restrictions that they have on developers?
No. So what they're doing is what they were going to award the municipality for hitting their housing targets, they won't give it to you.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So that's their plan. So recent news, they want to remove GST on new homes.
Okay, that's good.
They want to streamline regulatory processes for building. So basically removing red tape for builders. And this should accelerate housing production.
Definitely.
They want to adjust the mortgage stress test. It actually was their idea to remove the stress test when you're renewing with another bank, which have you found is helpful?
Yeah, definitely helpful because it's giving people options at the end of their mortgage. They don't have to be taken advantage of in like a situation like now where they know credit might have changed for a lot of these borrowers, so they're going to be forced to renew with their current lender. Things like that, I think, it makes it a little bit more competitive. So I think it is a good option for Canadians.
They also wanted to adjust the stress test because in their eyes, it discriminates against self-employed people, small businesses. Have you found that to be true? That one I was kind of interested in hearing why they would think that.
Yeah, the word discriminate is an interesting word to use. I think maybe why they might think that it's discriminatory is because, well, like typically business owners, they might have a certain amount of gross revenue, but they don't claim that as their annual income.
Okay.
So their buying power with a federal institution, financial institution, is already typically lower, right? So when they're going and using the stress test to qualify for a mortgage, it's reducing their buying power by like as much as like 20% in some cases, right?
Wow.
So if you're a business owner and you're trying to be smart about it and, expense things and, kind of take advantage of like those corporate tax cuts that are available, yeah, you're not going to claim as much income, and that's going to affect how quickly you can build wealth, right? Because really owning a home is how you're going to build wealth and have a source of funds to take money out and reinvest into your business as well, right? But there are other alternatives. Obviously, there's B lenders that are available for these types of people, and it's not that much higher than an A lender, right? So oftentimes people take advantage of that.
Yeah. They have other things. So their target was to build 1 million homes in the next 3 years, which I think is ahead of the Liberal one. The only thing is they need to pump money then into federal infrastructure to meet these targets. But then they also want to lower taxes, right? So,
but they also need to have people who are skilled in that type of construction to build those houses.
Yeah, like you need skilled tradespeople.
Yeah.
They want to ban foreign investors that are not living or moving to Canada from buying a home. And they also wanted to encourage a new market for mortgages. They said 7 to 10 years. This they haven't been talking about, but it was in their initial Canada's recovery plan. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So they want to reduce amortization to 7 to 10 years from 25 to 30 years.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm thinking that is a hefty monthly payment.
Yeah. Definitely, because I'm going to guess that that's going to increase your monthly payment by almost double, if not a little bit more than double, if you're going to reduce your amortization that much. But then, and then you're going to have to qualify at that amount. And you're going to have to qualify at that amount plus 2% because of the stress test, right? Yeah. So whether people are actually going to use that option, if I'm understanding you correctly, it might end up like that first-time homebuyers incentive where it's like not many people are going to use that because how will they qualify, right? I think that kind of thing would make more sense if you were, if you already owned a home and then you were like, okay, I can put in down a hefty down payment and have like a lot of equity right from the start, right? Where, so I can still afford that loan, even if it's shrunk down to like a 10-year amortization. But actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might actually be something that we do have to consider because for millennials, the average age of getting into home ownership is like 36 or something, right? And so if we're taking out a mortgage for 30 years, we're going to be in retirement by the time we pay off that mortgage.
Exactly.
And typically what Canadians do is we don't pay off that mortgage. We refinance. We take out more equity to build our wealth within those working years, right? So then you're not going to be prepared for retirement if you continue on that kind of schedule of refinancing and over and over and over again. So it might actually make sense to have that option for the people who are trying to secure their financial future and prepare for retirement, or they see a house as a conduit for financial freedom.
Yeah, and less interest, right? They're paying less into interest over those in the 15 years that they saved. Right?
Yeah, and we're definitely going to do a video where we break down how much you can save by changing that kind of stuff up.
The other thing, they also want the government to review their 37,000 buildings and at least allocate 15% of that into new builds.
Okay.
So, there's things to consider with their plan as well. Me being an environmentalist, I'm totally against urban sprawl. So if you're planning to create more homes, where's the land to do this? I'm so for them reviewing their buildings and finding a solution that way instead of ruining the environment.
100% agree. And I like the idea of having high density
development.
Development happening.
And again, this has to be paired with their immigration policy because you could be building all these homes, but if you have an influx of people immigrating into Canada, it doesn't matter. There's
Yeah.
no point in building new homes when you're always going to be playing catch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how the election plays out. We'll keep you guys posted and updated. If you have any feedback for us or how you think things will play out, let us know in the comments which political party you support. And make sure you share this with anyone who's on the fence on what platform they want to support. And don't forget to like and hit that notification bell.